better credit score, and they're gonna have, you know what? They're gonna have a down payment. And the black man, he gonna show up with his grill and say, "Can I get a loan? Can I get a loan? Can I get a loan? I'm pay with my grill. I'm pay with my grill."
You see the mass shootings that happen. Majority of those people are white males. What do you think about that?
Actually, if you look at the percentage of whites in America, which is 60%, the percentage of mass shooters is under that. The percentage of people that commit hate crime is under that. The percentage of people who are serial killers is under that. Black people are 13% of the population. We commit a greater percentage compared to that
But no,
of
you
mass
specifically
shootings.
talked about the smash and grab though. So I was saying, since you're using that as an example, I'm saying, well, what about the mass shooters that are usually white males?
One more time. They are usually white males because 60% of the country is white. However, they underrepresent in terms of the number of mass shootings. About 50% or so of the mass shootings in this country are committed by white people, even though white people are 60% of the population. They underrepresent. We overrepresent when it comes to hate crime, when it comes to mass shootings, when it comes to serial killings, when it comes to robberies, when it comes to virtually every category of violent crime. We overrepresent.
So what do white people do wrong?
So we are 13%, right, of the population. 13%. White people make 60%. And for Charlemagne, he's saying, well, the mass shootings. There are some mass shootings, but the mass shootings are not as much as the crime that the 13% makes, if that makes any sense, because the 13% is smaller, therefore there shouldn't be that much crime. The 60%, because being that there's so much more of them, they should be the mass people committing the crimes, but it's not. It's the 13%. The 13% is making more crime. But Charlemagne the God don't see that. They don't understand that.
I'm gonna keep asking you that because I want.
It seems to me, rather than deal with what's going on, the pathology that's going on in the inner city, you want me to talk about how bad white people are, which I don't think is a particularly productive thing to do.
Well, I think there's a cause and effect, but if we can't talk about the cause, which I believe is systemic racism and white supremacy, the FBI says.
Well, I just told you, if it's systemic racism, please explain to me how it was when America really had systemic racism in 1940. 87% of blacks lived under the poverty line. Again, this is during Jim Crow era. My father is from Athens, Georgia, grew up in Jim Crow. My mom is from Huntsville, Alabama, grew up in Jim Crow. 87% of blacks live below the poverty line. This is before Brown versus Board of Education. You did not find these kind of black on black crime.
Probably because we had no
But they still were living
ourselves.
below the poverty line, though, sir.
I'm sorry?
You're forgetting the fact that they were still living below the poverty line. You're picking and choosing, saying this was good, but this was bad.
Okay.
The bottom line, they end between the poverty line. But let's move forward.
Can I just address that? In 1940, 87% of blacks lived under the poverty line. 1960, that number had fallen to 47%. That's a 40-point drop in 20 years. That's the greatest 20-year period of economic expansion for black people in the history of America. Again, well before Brown versus Board of Education, well before the KKK imploded, well before we had race-based preferences. Why? Because it was rare for a black kid to be raised in a family without a father in the home. A strong belief in Judeo-Christian values, a belief in patriotism, even as America wasn't applying these values to black people, obviously. And a belief in entrepreneurship. All those things are now under assault by organizations like Black Lives Matter. Charlemagne, Black Lives Matter had on their website an attack on the nuclear family. The founders are self-described Marxists, trained Marxists. Marx wanted to dethrone God, was an atheist, and Marx did not believe in capitalism, let alone entrepreneurship. All the things that made black people still survive in virulent racism are now under attack by organizations like Black Lives Matter.
All of those things have always been under attack by white supremacy. You can go back to things like whether it's the Tulsa race massacres. Like every time black people do create these systems that are our systems and we are the entrepreneurs, it seems like white supremacy finds a way to destroy it.
Every time, look.
So Charlemagne's point right here, every time we create systems for our people, for our thing. So wouldn't that be some sort of segregation when you talk about that? well, we're creating our own thing. You can't have none of this. You can't be a part of this. We doing our own thing. We're excluding the Chinese, we're excluding the whites, we're excluding the Indians, we're excluding the purples, and we're excluding the greens. Isn't that segregation? We're creating our own and the rest of the society can't get involved because this is our own. Oh, but the white supremacists will find a way to get in. But if it's the other way around, if whites say this is just for whites, green can't come in, black can't come in, purple can't come in, yellow can't come in, this is all for whites, then that's a problem. Oh, then you're a racist, you're a homophobe, you're a xenophobe, you're a homophobe, you're a psychophobe, you're in all kinds of phobes. But if the black men say this is ours and you can't come in, then it's all good.
The Tulsa massacre, within about 5 years, that whole area was rebuilt. It was not even called the Black Wall Street until after it was rebuilt. And it was rebuilt, by the way, by black people without one dime of government money.
Yeah, who destroyed it to begin with?
It was racists who destroyed it. No question about it. We've had race riots, but so Japanese.
So you do agree that there's racism? I'm just so confused.
You know, I never even came close to saying. I never came close to saying there was no racism.
You just saying you don't think it's systemic racism?
Not anymore. Obviously, there was. We had something called slavery. We had something called Jim Crow.
That destroyed black. Hold on, sir. That was a system that destroyed Black Wall Street. It's the same system right now that's not even wanting to pay those same living descendants, because I know your position on reparations, but those same living descendants of Black Wall Street.
Okay.
And then you go on to say that the system, the quote unquote system, is also trying to destroy President Trump. So I'm just so confused on, do you believe that the system can destroy or not? You pick and choose, sir, and that's what's so confusing to me. You just said it wasn't racism. Now it is racism. When it was time to build it back, there was no racism.
I said it wasn't systemic racism. Let's talk about.
So what are you just hung up on the words?
Can I just make this point, Charlamagne, please? Let's take Chinese Americans. Chinese Americans were the first ethnic group to be excluded.
Hold on, Larry Elder. Hold on. Let me address this bitch. She is truly the pit bull. I'm thinking when they sent the memos down and said, we're going to have Larry Elder on the program. He's a black conservative Christian. Yeah? And we're going to need you to attack him from every angle. We're going to need you to pull out the bulldog setup and attack him at every angle. No matter what he says, I need you to jump. No matter what he does, I need you to jump. No matter what he does, I need you to get in there and devour this man, because we don't want his points to get across. And even if you sound stupid dumb, even if you sound stupid ridiculous, it don't matter. You make those points and you stick to them, because this is why you're here, to push our narrative, to push our thoughts, to push our vision, to push our plan. And so when Larry Elder come on here, common sense, black conservative, when he comes on here, you take him down. Pitbull. What do you call her? What's her name? Oh God, Figaro. Pitbull Figaro. We'll call her Pitbull Figaro. Pitbull Figaro.
With an Immigration Act in the late 1800s. They had riots against Chinese in LA, in San Francisco. There were laws that prevented Chinese Americans from participating in the laundry business. I'm in California. California, of course, rounded up Japanese Americans during World War II. There were laws that prevented Japanese Americans from owning farmland. The average Japanese American household has a higher per capita income than the average white household. The average Chinese American household has a higher per capita income than the average white household. How does that happen? It happens because of a strong belief in family. It is rare for a Chinese American or a Japanese American kid to have a child outside of wedlock, and a strong belief in education and a strong belief in entrepreneurship. These are the kinds of qualities that make people successful.
You can't blame everything on having a fatherless family, right? Because
I didn't say blaming everything.
I know, but that's what you're saying. You're saying a strong community. But
no, you said that's what I just said. I didn't say that.
You talk about the Asian community. Asian community, it's easy for them to get loans for entrepreneurships. It's easy for them to get loans for houses. You look at our community.
Okay.
If you really want to talk about our community, right? You look at the schools in our community. Some of our schools are the worst, right? Would you agree with that? Yes or no?
Absolutely. Which
Right.
is why one of the reasons I'm running for president is for school choice.
Also, would you say that it's in our community is
systemic?
it's also in our communities heavy food deserts. There's nothing but fast food places that are just killing and destroying that. Would you say that's true?
Systemic too, by the way.
Boy.
Would you say that's true? I'm just asking a question.
You said a number of things. I just addressed one of them about loans. Mm-hmm. In 1965, Barack Obama, who was in private practice, joined a bunch of other lawyers to file a class action lawsuit against Citicorp, which is headquartered here in New York. 186 black people were applying for loans for mortgages and didn't get them. And they accused Citicorp of engaging in racism. Mm-hmm. Citicorp said, no, it's not racism. You have poor credit scores, and we want to make sure we get our money back. Obama joined a bunch of other lawyers, and they sued Citicorp in a class action lawsuit. And Citicorp said, okay, to hell with it. Gave them all loans. And they followed them all up. Daily Caller did a few years later. Almost all of them lost their homes. Several of them filed for bankruptcy. One of them even said, when you don't qualify for a loan, maybe we shouldn't get a loan. Well, duh. It wasn't true that black people were not getting loans. Plus, there are all sorts of black-owned community banks around the country, and it turns out the turn-down rate when you apply for a loan at a community bank was even higher because they had less capital and they couldn't afford to loan money to risky people. It is just not the case that the reason for the plight of the black community is because people were not lending money to them. It's just not true.
That's not true. But
So I have a background in real estate sales. And so during that time about the mortgages, we were selling properties, new construction. We were selling them like hotcakes. Everybody was buying one. Everybody had a loan. Everybody was buying these properties. We were making money, hand over fist. Oh my God, it was a good time. It was a good time, I tell you. For those couple of years, it was great. It was great being in the business because we were selling $400,000 new construction properties in the hood. $400,000 in the hood. I said, oh my God, what is happening? It was wonderful. Well, these people didn't qualify. They barely had a good job to carry the loan. They had no money. It was like no down payments or whatever. I forget how it all went. No down payment or FHA loan 3% and all that. All you had to come up with $5,000 and you'll get yourself a brand new house. And that was the deal. That was happening in and out. We were selling houses like you wouldn't believe. And then fast forward 2 years later, those same houses were underwater. And the people could not afford them. That's when we fell into the short sale market where people could not afford to pay the banks and the banks wanted their houses back. And so people were just letting the houses go. Okay, because why? Because Obama decided that everybody should get a house. And so the bank said, you know what, to hell with it. We'll give them all houses. Let's see how that works. And so they did. And the market crashed because of it. So another wonderful gift from Barack Hussein Obama.
Hold on 1 second, Charlamagne.
What's not true?
You're bringing back facts of 1965, right? Let's talk 2023, right?
I said 1995.
1995. We'll talk 2023, right? My son will be successful in real estate and successful in buying a house. You know why? Because his father owns his house. Because his father owns a house, right? But my father
because of you and the drive you put into
did
it.
not own houses.
Because of you and the drive you put into it.
We're not going to have a conversation.
You're not even appreciating what you've done to your son.
I'm just asking you a question. I just let you speak and I'll let you talk.
Okay.
We have a conversation.
All right.
When we talk about it, right, it's harder for our community to get loans, right? And not just because of poor credit scores. It's because of where the areas are. You talked about the Asian community. A lot of the Asian community have their own banks and they're able to process and get their own banks. There's not too many African American branches that are able to give out money. So that's one. Then let's talk about getting grants for schools. They're not even giving grants for schools at the rate that they're giving grants for white people. And let's talk about when they talk about entrepreneurship. They are giving so much money to these white and Asian kids and Asian people doing it, and a 1,000 times less than our community. Will you agree to any of that?
No, I don't. I don't agree with virtually any of what you just now said. The turn down rate for a white applicant for a mortgage is higher than the turn down rate for a Japanese or a Chinese applicant for a mortgage. Now, are you telling me that banks are discriminating against whites in favor of Asian Americans? It's because their credit scores are better. They often live below their means. They save more, even when they're making the same amount of money than black people do. If you have poor credit score, you're not going to get a loan. Period. End of statement. Even the head of Urban League, a black man once said that if you have poor credit score, you're not going to get a loan. End of statement.
Sir.
Before the pit bull comes on, I want to make this point. Larry Elder said a very good thing there. He said the Asians, they save their money. They are not out here buying fancy cars. They're not out here buying sneakers. They're not out here buying, whatever it is that black folks spend their money on, for show. Well, one of the things that we know they spend their money on for show is these grills, gold caps. They got gold all up in their teeth. I mean, it's caps. They spend money on that. They spend money on useless things. But the Asians, they save their money. Why? Because they want to have better houses. They want to be able to educate their children. They want to have nice things and have nice, memories and things like that. So they invest in vacations and, nice things. Where the black man, they don't do that. They invest in things that's non-essential, and things, in shoe collections and so on and so forth. So the Asians use their money because they want to buy houses. They save their money so they could buy houses, and they can, have those investments in art and so on. The black man, that's not what they're doing. And so when it comes down to buying a house, the Asians is going to credit score. And they're going to have, they're going to have a down payment. And the black man, he going to show up with his grill and say, can I get a loan? Can I get a loan? Can I get a loan? I'm paid with my grill. I'm paid with my grill. Just saying.
Yes.
Let's just, okay. When you were talking about crime, you weren't prepared to talk about disproportion. You talked about how it was more black people that was doing it, and then you talked about how we're the smaller, of the population. The same applies also to the loans. It's more white people than it is black people. You seem to pick and choose.
I'm talking about the rate. I'm talking about the rate.
Whatever it is, the bottom line is it's more white people than it is black people. And so if more black people are not getting loans disproportionately, it seems you'd only want to apply the disproportion to the conversation when it benefits your talking point.
I'm not sure you understood.
Which is why they say.
I'm not sure you understood.
No, understood.
I'm not sure you understood my point. That's why I mentioned in 1995 when 186 black people who were not getting loans filed a class action lawsuit claiming that they were denied the loan because of racism. Citicorp said, okay, here are your loans. The reason I wasn't giving you the loans is because we're afraid you weren't going to be able to pay them back.
I'm not talking about
Fast forward, they weren't able to pay them back, which proves the Citicorp point.
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about
I know you're not. Because inconvenient.
I'm talking about your response to Envy when you said more white people get approved for loans.
Since you like numbers, Washington Post said black Americans have the highest denial rates for purchase and refinance of loans, according to Home Mortgage Disclosures Act.
Because of their credit score.
And all credit scores are the same. 15% of Hispanic loan applicants were denied, compared with about 11% of white and 10% of Asian applicants with same credit scores. And that's Washington Post, since you love numbers so much, and I know you do love numbers. That's coming from the Washington Post. That's 2023, not 1995.
I can show you a study that says the opposite.